Robert Mills owns and operates Briarview Farm, a diversified 2,200-acre farm in Southside Virginia at the foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. The Mills family farm grows flue-cured tobacco, both organic and traditional. To support their cattle operation of 300 mama cows, they grow 1,500 acres of grass, baling hay from about half those acres and then grazing the rest. For further diversification, Robert manages a poultry operation that hatches 34,000 pullets a year. What makes this story so unique and almost unheard of? Robert Mills is a first-generation farmer who started his farming operation from scratch when he was a teenager. Over the years, Robert has become a nationally renowned voice for agriculture. In 2017, Robert was recognized as the Sun Belt Southeast Farmer of the Year.
Really didn't have any family that farmed. I had a grandfather that had about 15 cows on a little small piece of property that I got to visit some, but not something that I was on a regular basis. And it wasn't until I got involved in FFA and the 8th grade that I fell in love with agriculture and knew that I wanted it to be the industry that I wanted to be part of. And it was kind of funny, after a couple weeks of this agriculture class and getting a taste of FFA and listening to the agriculture teacher talk about agriculture not only in Virginia but how it is globally, that I came home and told my parents that I wanted to farm for a living. Of course, you know, growing up in an acre lot subdivision right outside of Danville, my parents laughed and they said, son, you won't be able to do that because we don't have money, we don't have land, we don't have the equipment.
Ignoring those cold, hard facts, Robert decided to begin farming. He was 13 years old. As part of an FFA project, Robert started growing vegetables on a little garden plot.
Nobody wanted to come into the area with, the larger equipment. So after about 3 or 4 years, we'd gone up to about 50 acres, and we were raising corn, field corn. We were raising white potatoes, sweet potatoes, growing some other string beans, things like that. I remember going to a sale when I was 15 years old, and I bought a tractor. And I had a note from the bank at 15 years old. I had a $3,000 line of credit. And I bought a tractor for $2,900. And I didn't even have a ride home from the sale. My dad was at work, and I called a friend of mine who was 16, who had just gotten his driver's license, whose dad farmed, and said, could you please come pick me up from this sale and bring your dad's trailer because I bought a tractor. And then the next week I went to the bank and we did the note, and my dad co-signed the note with me, and that was my first tractor purchase.
In the early years, Robert did not buy any land. Instead, was renting farms, expanding several miles outside the community, and eventually running over 80 acres of land. He had a keen sense for identifying the customer's needs in the area.
I kind of had a neat deal with my field corn. Is I actually harvested the corn, hauled it to the mill, and have it ground and bagged and delivered to customers as bag feed. And that was working well for us. And of course, I was still active in FFA and chapter president, star chapter farmer 4 times. And in 1991, I was elected state FFA president. And it was through those agricultural experiences that it helped me develop my leadership, and was able to move on to be a bigger part of the FFA Association. I actually took, I was still farming, and I actually took a year off between high school and college to fulfill my duties as state FFA president. And in that year, I traveled 20,000 miles in Virginia, just speaking to young people about how to get involved in agriculture.
Robert also traveled abroad, doing an international exchange program in Germany, living with a German family in Munich on a dairy farm. Upon returning to the U.S., he pursued a degree in agricultural technology from Virginia Tech.
I came back and I was offered a job as a store manager for a company called Royster Clark, which is now CPS. My first job, continued to farm, The operation was growing just a little bit, but we were basically running out of land where we were at. We were about 100 acres then, and we were about maxed. That was about all we could do. But we picked up a different commodity that I had never grown on my own, and that was tobacco. And one of the farms that I had, or pieces of property I had rented, actually had some tobacco quota on it. I started growing dark tobacco, dark Virginia dark fire tobacco, and that increased our revenue to the point that we could start buying newer equipment, nicer equipment.
At age 25, Robert bought his first farm, 80 acres near Cowlins, Virginia. Robert and his family still live there today.
This farm and this community offered a really unique opportunity for us because it enabled us to be able to move into some livestock production. In 1999, I bought 8 open heifers, and actually didn't even have a bull. I had to rent a bull to service the heifers, and that was the beginning of our cattle operation. Started growing more tobacco when I moved here to this area, and started renting some larger farms. So I already had a relationship with the landowners in this area, and as we began to grow the operation and we would rent a farm, we'd push down all the old fences, build brand new fences, put in alternative watering systems, fence the cattle out of the creek, and in a matter of just a few short years, we were up over 1,500 acres of land, and our cattle operation had expanded, our tobacco operation expanded. And in 2001 is when things really changed. To that point, I had continued to work public work. I had left the farm supply business and went to work as a conservation specialist here in Pittsylvania County. And it's when a gentleman from Purdue, Poultry, came into my office, and he said, I'm looking for Robert Mills. And I said, I'm Robert. And he said, everywhere I've been, I keep hearing your name as somebody who wants to farm full time. And I may have a unique opportunity for you to be able to come home and farm full time. And so we interviewed and had several interviews, and we looked at the balance sheet and cash flow statement, and I realized that I could trade my job that I had as a conservation specialist for the same salary that I was going to get out of the poultry house. And October the 12th, 2001 is when that dream of that 13-year-old kid who wanted to farm full time became real. And that's when I came home to become a full-time farmer. And from that point on, we've continued to expand to the size of the operation that we are today.
Robert married Cindy in 1995, who was not from a farm background.
She grew up in a pretty urban area. It was really funny when I came to look at this farm. We didn't even know it was for sale. I didn't know a lot about the area, and just by word of mouth, my dad, a lady that he had worked with in the past, said, "Yeah, we're fixing to sell my mom's farm." And he said, "Where is it at?" And she said, "It's in Cowlins." He said, "Well, my son's looking for a farm. Would you mind if he came up and looked at it?" She said, "I'd love for him to." This was on a Saturday. They were going to put it in a realtor's hands on Monday. I came up on a Sunday between that Saturday and Monday, looked at the farm. There wasn't even a driveway in here. It was grown up. It had been neglected, left alone. Nobody had really been farming it. And I came in and I made an offer on the farm. And then I had to drive 27 miles back home and tell my wife, who had never seen the property, that I had just made an offer on a farm that she had never seen. So when I brought her to the farm for the first time, of course, we were wading through briars and locust trees and pine trees. And I stood there in front of the truck as briars were up around our waist, and I said, you know, there's where our house is going to be. This is where I'm going to put my shop. I'm going to have tobacco in this field. I'm going to have cattle here. And she looked at me, she said, "I'm glad you can see it because I can't." And then we started. The first thing we did is we got a loader in here and a bush hog and cleaned it up, built the driveway, and made this our home.
The Mills are raising 2 sons, Logan, age 17, and Holden, age 11.
The oldest son has already committed to me. We sat down and had the heart-to-heart talk this year about what he really wants to do, and he was adamant that I want to come here and be a part of this operation. And I'm really glad to hear that, because it's only been through a lot of sacrifice, effort, a lot of help from a lot of people that we're able to do what we do today. And to know that there's another generation coming behind me makes me work even harder to continue to make the operation not only profitable, but to continue to expand it so that he and his family can make a living on the farm as well. And my 11-year-old, he loves the farm. He's great on equipment. He's probably one of the better equipment operators that we have. But his desire in life, he wants to drive the service truck and work on tractors. At 11 years old, he watches YouTube videos on how to build engines and transmissions, and he can tell you about as much about any of the tractors we have around here as I can. And so I'm excited that both of my boys want to be in the agricultural industry, because the industry's been really good to us.
Now, over 30 years since Robert's first FFA project began by growing vegetables, the mill's farming operation has grown to 2,200 acres that span across Pennsylvania, Henry and Franklin counties in southern Virginia. A diversified operation including hay, wheat and tobacco crops, pasture ground, and the poultry hatchery. Farm equipment plays a critical role in the success of Robert's operation. For Robert, service and quality are most important. He runs several John Deere tractors, all in the 80 to 150 horsepower range. The support he gets from James River Equipment in Danville, Virginia is a big reason why. And for his haying equipment, the disc mowers and tedders, Robert runs all KRONE branded equipment.
We have a small window to capture as much good quality hay as we can. So we run 2 KRONE cutters. Those cutters run every day. And our goal is to mow 70 acres a day. And then my son and I, we bale 70 acres a day. And we have finally grown our equipment to be able to accommodate that type of volume. And what has happened is we can put up hay that gets old on you quick. With the equipment we've got, we can jump out and get a hold of it and capture at least 2/3 of our crop in that premium time that it needs to be cut. KRONE mowers for me, are the heaviest duty cutter that I've seen out there. They're easier to hook up than some of the other cutters that I had. That's one of the aggravating things that a lot of farmers have on going from a pool type mower conditioner to a 3-point hookup cutter, is the aggravation of hooking it up. With KRONE's new kickstand system that they have on the bottom, it's easy to back up to, easy to hook up to, and it's a heavy-duty machine. Where KRONE really hit a home run was on the quick change blades. Before, I was having to get the air wrench out, we was having to get wrenches out, and we were changing blades, and it was aggravating. Now, with this quick change blade system, I can roll under there, and in a matter of minutes, I have either flipped blades or changed blades. And there's very few service points on the machine, so it doesn't take long to grease it, and within 10 or 15 minutes that cutter is ready to go for the next day. We've run a lot of tedders over the years, and we've worked on a lot of tedders and put a lot of parts on tedders, and the KRONE tedder is the heaviest duty tedder that I have ever hooked to. We get in the field, we don't have any of the tines breaking or coming off. It's a well-built machine. The way that it automatically tilts back when you're moving from one field to the other. Here in Southside Virginia, the farms are very fragmented. So when we mow 70 acres in a day, it may be 10 different fields. So you're in transport a lot from one field to the other. The KRONE tedder, I never get off. I hit the hydraulics, it folds up, tilts back, and down the road I go.
With all his success and recognition, Robert is still a very humble man who is eternally grateful for all who have helped him and his family along their journey.
I'm a very loyal customer. When someone treats me right, I don't look anywhere else. And I have a really good relationship with the salesman from James River Equipment in Danville, Virginia. When I walk in James River, I'm not just a customer. I'm part of James River's family. And so when I come through the door, everybody knows who I am.
That the family farm is alive and well. and American agriculture will never die. God bless you and thank you.
This past year, Robert Mills was named Southeastern Farmer of the Year by the Sunbelt Expo and Swisher Sweets, a prestigious award that each year honors a farmer in the southeastern U.S. for excellence in all aspects of their farming operation.
Never from the first day that I filled out the application that I ever thought I would win Virginia, and never thought I would win the Southeast Farmer of the Year. And when they called my name on stage, to be standing on stage with 9 of the finest farmers in the Southeast, I can't tell you what an honor that was to be named. And to be a small family farm here in Southside Virginia, and especially being a first generation, to me it was a testimony to the support that me and my family have had over the years as we have struggled and tried to build an operation from scratch. And I've said all along, this award wasn't about me. It was about everybody that supported us. So after we won the award, of course there was a lot of media and a lot of interviews and things, but then they gave me a golf cart. This Expo Fairgrounds is a pretty big place. They gave me a golf cart and a gentleman to drive it. And he said, "Mr. Mills, I'll drive you anywhere you want to go." I said, "I'm going to tell you where I want to go." I said, "I want to go to all the equipment dealers or manufacturers whose equipment I use, to take a minute and thank them for what they've done for me."
Robert Mills is focused on helping make agriculture a viable industry that can support future generations who want to be part of feeding the world. That's why Robert spends time traveling to events and serving on boards promoting agriculture, as well as representing the interests of agriculture in both Richmond and Washington, D.C. Robert shares how on one such trip he took his son along and he finally got to see his dad in action.
We were sitting there at a table and he leaned over and he put his arm around me and he said, "I finally figured out why you do this. Because if we don't tell our story, no one else is." It's the cities and the inner cities that we've really got to focus. But who's comfortable going into an atmosphere where you have nothing in common with the people that you're talking to? Now, for me, I love that. I love going and telling a story. I go to Danville somewhat on a regular basis and speak to Rotary clubs. There's no pay for me to do that, but it's my job to get these consumers only 30 miles from me to understand what's going on in the areas and the rural parts around where they live. And when I look at the amount of farmers that are out there and those that are actually advocates for agriculture, our numbers are even less. We've got a little country store here in the community, and I love the little country store, and that's where I start my day every day. And there's a group of farmers that are sitting in there, and they always look at me and go, "Robert, what are y'all going to do about this?" And I look at them and go, "It's not my responsibility, it's our responsibility."